So I got Ford focused again. The catalytic converter's on the front here, and then this flex pipe goes up over, and then the exhaust goes towards the back of the car. So there's leaking at the flange here, but I'll fix that with high temp silicone. Anyway, gonna demonstrate today how I do exhaust pipe repairs. This one here, the flange was very weak around the bolts, so I've welded that up. I'll grind it down, clean it up so I can get a flat surface to the bolt to mount on. But the main leakage was occurring around this rusty piece here. I'll cut this clamp off since it's not doing anything. I have welded this a little bit previously, these tack welds here and that. But see, I'm burning holes through it. It's so thin. This section right here. This is good and this is good. So I'm going to just band-aid it. I'll show you how I do that. Now the tools I got here, well, first thing I got is a scrapyard truck exhaust. It's stainless steel. You get to know what stainless looks like. It's a funny color oxide on it. It's not rust red like that. It's I don't know what you'd call it, more purpler or whatever. But you want stainless exhaust if possible, because it just lasts so much longer. So I've cut a piece of it off here. It's scrunched where there was a clamp, but I cleaned it up with my wire wheel there. And yes, it doesn't have a guard on it, so when you set it down, you have to set it upside down. I run a wire wheel without a guard just because I can get in closer where I need to and things. However, you need a zip disc also, and I never run them without a guard. If they blow up, you're getting hurt. So I need a round file here. As you can see, after I zip disked it off, it put a burr on the inside, so I'll file that out with my round file and wire brush. And I got my new Power Fist 125 inverter welder here. I loaded it up with 30 thou flux core, keeping 35. I got 2 of them now. I thought my other one was having issues, but so I got 35 in one and 20 or 30 in the other. So this I'm going to use the 30 thou on, since it's thin wall material. Up till now I did it with 35 thou. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here, as I've done in the past with exhaust, I'm going to take this, and it's larger, so I'm going to slit it, make it into like a stop sign pieces, and then band-aid them on. So I'll show that as I go along here. It might not be an ideal solution, but I've been doing it for 20 years, and because exhaust pipe isn't cheap, and it generally only rots out. Like, this is the only bad part on this whole pipe. The rest of it's the flex joint's still good. They're worth about, I don't know, $75 or something. So fix her up, make her work. Why would you want to put $500 worth of exhaust on a car that's barely worth $500? You won't even get that out of it for scrap. Anyway, I'll show you a little bits and pieces here of what I do. Okay, so I slit the exhaust pipe. I usually go for like 4 pieces. Once you slit it, you get burrs on the inside, so I've used vice grips to clamp it down here, and used the flap disc to take the burrs out. You can leave them in, but it sits better against the pipe if you take them out. Also cleaned up the existing exhaust pipe here, ground down some of the welds and things, make it so that my sandwich pieces will fit better. Basically, in this case, I would weld it down here and then tack it, and then once it's hot, you bend it down to make it fit. Same kind of thing on the inside. You can cut it short and weld it back together. Now, it could of course be said that I could just, cut this whole thing out and replace this whole piece, and that would be an option. The one thing about that, you have to put this thing back on the car and tack weld it together on the car. Otherwise you won't get the orientation right, because it can be out in like 3 axes. So that's why I just do it this way when it's not critical. I mean, yeah, you'd get better flow in the pipe with losing this rusty piece for sure. I don't disagree with that. So I worked my way about halfway around it here. Got the first strip welded on there, and then I've tacked the second one to it, and also tacked it to the rusted out piece there, just so this piece can't, like, you know, collapse inward and block the pipe or something. So, you know, I gotta trim this guy up and put him on there. The two pipes aren't the same size. This one's larger diameter, so, but that's okay because you can flatten it out. And I have my welding hammer here for smacking it down and then tacking it. Clamp it in the vise to hold it, or use vise grips or whatever. You have to manipulate the steel sometimes. Well, maybe the two pipes were the same size because I ended up with a gap there after I wrapped it around. Got 4 pieces there. So now I'll cut a thin strip and put it over top of those two and finish weld the whole thing. Then she should be good. I did a little more on the flange also. The 30 thou seemed to be able to weld it better than the 35. 35 is pretty thin. The problem with the flanges is they get thin in one spot or something, and then they break. So I just weld them up and before they break. That way, you know, you can reuse them practically forever. So same thing on catalytic converter flanges, especially because you don't want to be putting a new converter on just because your edge of the flange broke off. So I just weld them up. You know, it being steel, it doesn't last like the stainless does, but it has so far saved me from having to buy a new converter ever. So, due to a broken off flange, they just erode due to the heat over time, basically. And there it is, all welded up, sealed. The flange all built up there. Anyway, it would definitely be faster to just cut the piece out and piece it in, but you'd have to tack weld it in place on the car, and this is pretty hard to get at the back there. I have enough trouble getting in, let alone welding it. I have done that before, but I didn't feel like doing it, so this does take longer, but it does work also. So anyway, everybody take care. Strange noise in the neighborhood. Believe it or not, it's a 2-stroke snowblower, possibly twin engines. It's got 2 discharge spouts. We'll see if we can sneak a peek of it here before it runs away. Oh, I see. It's a whole fleet of them. You had 2 of them running at once, that's what it was.